I'm going to start out with something that is perhaps dangerous. Are we losing progress? That's your cue to boo me, by the way. This is the one time you could boo me and you get away with it. So I'm going to go back. Are we losing progress? Thank you. I'm going to give some evidence that suggests we might be. However, I'm going to talk about all the reasons why we shouldn't be, okay? So my background, I've been a researcher in the service space for 25 years now. Back in 2005, I screenshotted this benchmark report from the Aberdeen Group that I co-spirited with my colleague, Mark Vigoroso, an OG of the services industry. Some of you might know him. And it was called The Emergence of the Chief Service Officer. And it was talking about the importance of service management being part of the corporate agenda. And one of the concluding data points from that research exercise, as you can see, top row purple, or fuchsia, or whatever you want to call that color, best-in-class organizations were more commonly to have the presence of a senior vice president, 37% of the time. So the achievement of best-in-class performance was happening more commonly when there was an executive leader overseeing the line of business of service. And this guy, that smug look on his face, I was mad at him until 2 weeks ago building this presentation. Jim Collins, anybody here heard of Jim Collins? Good to great? Great guy. Smart, intellectual, outstanding. We engaged him to keynote our event, and he gets there. We paid a hefty fee, if you can imagine. Jim Collins at the time, he was about 4 years removed from publishing Good to Great. It was a hefty fee. And he comes on stage, and some of the OGs that are in the audience here, Laura Mather, over here, Greg Sharp was a keynoter at that conference. We had people like Mark Good, the executive vice president of home services for Sears. They were a company at the time. Sorry, Sears. We had, Rusty Walther. Who here has heard of Rusty Walther presentation? Network appliance, and more recently, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, hilarious. And a couple of other, David Dorff, the executive vice president of operations from Kawasaki, who talked about the notion that Kawasaki made sub 5 percentage points on their product, and the only way they were able to survive was with service margins. So David Dorff delivered a cool keynote. And this guy gets up on stage after we pay him this hefty fee, and he says, the world is going to become so automated, products are going to be so intelligent, designed for engineering, and everything's going to become so technical that you guys are not going to have a job in 5 years. I said, oh, that's wonderful. I look over to my CEO, and he's like, how much did we just pay this guy to tell our audience, the best of our community, they're going to lose their job? And I don't think we've reached the phase of Iron Man. I don't. While I think digital transformation has happened at a blistering pace, I don't think we're here yet. I also don't think we've reached the phase of Terminator stage, where the AI and bots are coming to take over our planet and take over our jobs. I think that there is a balancing point between human and technical roadmaps. There's an intersection point where magic happens. So let me take you through a discussion. So I asked Google Gemini, I said, hey, tell me, what does field service look like in the future? And I asked them, what does it look like 25 years from now? And here's a quick snapshot, and there's a long read there. I'm not asking you to read it, but it's a lot of the things that we are ambitiously talking about today: sustainability, intelligent approach, so many things that we're just talking about: proactive, predictive service, intelligent service. I then asked, what would it be like 125 years from now? And all of a sudden, I don't know what the hell happened in between there, but it looks like post-apocalyptic here. Something bad happened. But you can see this drone and intelligence and robotic nature of service transforming over that period of a century, right? And then I asked, again, what happens in 2500 post-apocalyptic? Apparently, we've got green trees again. And it comes to this point of, we're going to continue to see digital transformation and automation of experiences. But we have to be very careful of the commoditization of experience, because when I ask service leaders day in and day out, what is your differentiation? What do you think they commonly say? People, the humans, the human connection. And Jim, wipe that smug look off your face. I love you. The one common thing, you go backwards on those projected field service views. What does field service look like in 50 or 25, 125, 375 years? There's humans still there. They didn't eliminate humans, okay? So I want to keep that in your mind.
Question. We've only been working together for 15 minutes, but I think you'll know the answer. What is service? Service is taking action to create value for someone. And uplifting service is taking the next action to create more value for someone you care about. Ooh, fast learners, yeah? Now, there's a problem. Different people value different things. True? Like you'll have some customers who say, I just want the cheapest possible solution. And you'll have somebody else that says, no, I'm happy to pay more, but what am I going to get for that? Yeah, you'll have some who say, give it to me fast. And others will say, don't rush me. I want to make this decision with a lot of thought and time, right? Some are going to say to you, I want to know every solution. Explain the whole thing to me. Others will say, just help me make a good choice. So when different people value different things, we've also got to have a way of explaining to our people, how do you think about the value that we're creating for that someone else, for that customer, for that internal colleague? And sometimes what they value is just get it right. Give me what it is that I actually need. Provide for me what we call the primary product and give it to me at a good price. Sometimes what they're more concerned about is the flexibility of the delivery system. Do I have more variety in terms of time? Can I stage the delivery? Another category, which is the one that most people think about when they hear the word service, is just, are you nice people? Most people, when they hear the word service, they think of a waiter in a restaurant. And they're not wrong. But the only category that they're looking at is the one we call the service mindset or the attitude, the friendly, the smile, the tone of voice. But then you got a fourth category, which is to what extent are you just trying to close a deal or close a ticket or complete a project, or are you actually looking out for me today and onwards into the future? Like, are we actually building a relationship with each other? And different people value different things, and even the same person can value something different at different situations or different moments of time. Now, of course, you can put those two together. You could say within the 6 levels of service in each category, what kind of value are we creating for our customers?
Approach.
There's one more tool I want to...
One thing that I've been experiencing this year, which is for me interesting. We had 3 events this year for personally that really trigger the needs to accelerate the transformation towards one services and a much more holistic strategy. Number one, I was meeting with our what we call our partner advisory board. And this is the best partners that we have that buy and resell our service, sometimes perform. And this is the one from our secure power business. So they are very positioned on just the secure power business for the UPSs, the battery in the IT space. And this is our best player. We have been working with them for 20 years. And during this meeting early this year, the thing that they were begging us is how can we enlarge our scope and expand our scope to other businesses. You have been giving us a badge, a certification only on one businesses, and there are plenty of opportunity with our customers that we could tap if you would expand our ownership and our certification across more businesses. This was an eyes opener for us, and when we look at our install base, we have around 20,000 contracts across the country today, and we modelize through a beachhead concept. If you have a services contract in a given BU, you know that you have a high probability of having other assets from other BU, and if we expand this services contract from one BU to the other BU, the potential of services of revenue in the country was between 300 million and $500 million. So giving the access to a much more cross-BU and agnostic business for this partner was a no-brainer.
I'm really excited to be able to talk about this in this group of people, right? With this level of leadership in the room, you may think that change management is someone on your team will take care of that, which couldn't be further from the truth, right? So according to the research, active and visible sponsorship is the #1 contributor to a successful change within an organization. So I wanted to start out with that to kind of get your attention to say, if you're a VP, a CEO, a senior director, you absolutely play a role in the change within your organization. So a little bit after I moved to global services, I was lucky enough to get certified as a change practitioner through an organization called ProSci, and if you haven't heard of them, I highly recommend you check it out. I use their methodology in all that we do, and over the last 3 years, we've really done what I consider a good job embedding that within the culture of service at Waters, so much so that it's starting to get the attention of other business units that may have been a little bit more resistant to change management, and not only just change management, internal change management as well.
The organisation. So the thesis for our business has been to grow service. We started out with 3 large construction arms within our business, located on the West Coast, East Coast and Central of the United States, and started building our M&A acquisition focused on buying service companies. The opportunity that exists in the United States is about $24 billion worth of emergency spend each year on home services, and what we did in our thesis was build out a platform focused on primarily plumbing. It was the highest need as far as emergency services were concerned. And as we built it out and bought these companies, we set a standard for 90 days for us to bring on businesses into a system integration to our platform. Rather than just let the companies come on board, make money, and exist within the realm of the organization, we set a set of standards. Our holding company and my leadership team in the holding company owns the actual design of what we wanted to do in regards to interoperable systems. So we chose the systems up front with some feedback from the field. But the way that it works successfully is that we get the ownership of it while we lead the ownership as far as choice of systems at the holding company. The feeling of ownership exists at the ground level for the field service teams. They
technology,
need to be able
you need to be thinking into the future. Where do I want to go? In what time frame do I want to get there? Because you're going to need to decide when to jump in on a particular technology. You're going to have to invest potentially years before you need it to come to market. But once you do that, then you have to be in parallel looking at your structure, looking at your processes, everything that supports effective use of that technology. And so then, like we were just kicking off an RFP, and the first stage in the RFP, a technology RFP, was to engage our lean team and to look at all of our processes so that we could say, what's the current state, okay? But where do we want to go? What's the future state? So that we make sure when we are developing requirements, we are developing those requirements to the future state so that we are designing better processes into the technology so that when it comes to market, everything works together. Our people are more likely to adopt it because it makes their job easier, and it provides a great associate experience and then ultimately a great customer experience.
Everything I mentioned before is 100% outsourced. There's no badged, Bell badged folks that are doing this work. So it's all through partners. The only people that work for me are partner managers that manage those groups on behalf of myself and my leadership. So when you think about that, so we have 95 partners around the world, and each one of them have their own IT departments, their own interoperability challenges. So it's like a 4D kind of cube I have to manage every day to understand, can these partners do what I need to get done across all, 10,000 of their engineers, across 170 countries, across all those languages. That adds a lot of complexity. So what we've done is we create a lot of different forums and with their CIOs and our leadership as well, just to understand what's important to them. And by the way, they have great ideas as well that we want to bring on board as well. So instead of having, one IT department with ideas and thoughts, I have 96. That's how I think about it. Over time, I think that'll shrink as we get better with more higher quality products, et cetera, and getting better process and technology. However, we still always have that integration with external partners. And we see it as an advantage for us competitively with our across our competitors in the industry.
Excellent. Now, I've been looking at this topic for some time. I actually wrote, about 9 years ago, published the first book on digital transformation. And in that book, the key message, in many ways, was that digital transformation is actually not about the technology. And this was kind of surprising at the time. I was surprised by how surprised everyone else was. And I have continued to see many companies sort of get off on the wrong foot, thinking about transformation of their business as sort of an IT project. Even in some cases, sort of an IT vendor selection process, right? We're going to install some new hardware, software, digital platforms, and that's going to transform the company. And of course, sitting around the table, listening to many of you this morning, you all have the lived experience that that's not really what has to happen here. That's not really what the change has to come from. So what I want to do in our time together is share a little bit about each of these steps. You guys actually get a copy of the book. So I'm going to focus on sort of the key message and a story from each that I think might resonate particularly with you and the challenges and the organizations that are in front of you every day in your work. So this first step of the roadmap framework is about vision, defining a shared vision. Where are we going as a business? And this has to combine and tie together a few different things. First of all, what is your context? How is your context changing? What's happening in the world of your customers, your industry, regulators, workforce? You know, the silver tsunami was one of the themes I kept hearing about this morning. I see a real difference depending on which part of the world I'm in. I mean, if you want to look at a labor shortage, try operating a business like yours in Japan. I've been spending some time there this year. But you've got to understand, how do we connect that context where our world is going with our business strategy? What is that future spot we are aiming to occupy, where we are aiming to win and to lead and create value for our customers? And also, what is the financial model? What's the business theory that's going to tie these together? How are we economically going to win? How are we going to pay for the significant investments in technology, people, and change? And this is all going to pay for itself. So
I'll give you a quick example. We have CT rooms that are typically used to do emergency images in emergency departments. If we have a CT that goes down, that hospital has to take that traffic and divert it to another hospital. So you can imagine the criticality of what that takes. We need to be more proactive and predictive with those experiences for those customers, because if I have to divert to another hospital, it could mean a delay in care for an emergency victim of up to 45 minutes to an hour or more. Or I'm putting them in the backlog of other cases. So you're putting more volume through only one or fewer facilities. So it's extremely important that we think about what those journeys look like and how we get to more proactive and predictive capabilities. So where does data come in? I hear a lot of talk about AI and artificial intelligence and machine learning and what we're trying to do. To me, the way we try to think of it, data sits everywhere, but data ultimately becomes content. Content, if assembled properly, becomes contextual. The context of what you're trying to actually do gets delivered to certain personas. So a physician and a nurse don't need the same type of information. A tech support engineer and a field support engineer don't need necessarily the same type of information. A clinical support specialist doesn't need the same information as a field service engineer or a repair technician. So if you think about all the different personas that you have that are actually using information to try to provide that continuous improvement cycle and the speed of that development, it's extremely critical that you get your data structures right, proper, and correct, so that you have the ability to have artificial intelligence and machine learning take care of those things. So if you have your data, your content, context, and you get your personas right, the ultimate thing is you want to be able to look at and understand, are you able to drive the right insights? And if you get the right insights, can you then ultimately drive the right actions? And the actions ultimately lead to outcomes, and that the value-based aspect of what we're trying to drive is how we measure the flow of this information or the structure of the framework that we're trying to drive at the end of the day. So that's generally how we're kind of thinking about that. I'd like to invite Karthik up to the stage to give you a little bit deeper perspective of kind of where we're headed. Carther?
I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to go on this journey for the personas and the people and the causes that been identified, and then what to expect at key junctures or critical points when you're going on this journey. And for me, it is very much like building a house. And I don't know if the person from Caterpillar is here, although mining is a pretty large-scale construction. But just like with any construction project, you don't start the journey by digging holes and pouring concrete. That's generally not going to turn out good for you. You want to start this journey by investing in an architect. You want to upgrade your talent if you don't have it internally, and you want to supplement at times with external talent. So that's the first insight I'll share with you is as you're going on this journey to connect data, knowledge, content, making it more relevant and meaningful for your fields and support teams, you want to make this somebody's full-time responsibility. And at Philips, we've invested in the Workforce Innovation Office.
To our
That's why I'm
customers,
here.
but recently, I'm going to say recently, it's probably been 4 or 5 years now, we've developed an authenticated user portal. And that's where a customer can go in and see all of their specific information. So we're not counting on them to call 1-800-241-COKE anymore. They can go see lots of information about their specific outlet or outlets on that portal. We also have an app that is, you can go look it up right now. It's called My Coke, and you can download it to your phone. And if you are a crew member at a Wendy's, you can say, hey, I'm at this Wendy's. You don't even have to know your outlet number or anything, and you can put in a service request. So there's some authenticated, some unauthenticated experiences. You can still call us. We still answer the phone 24/7, 365. But you can also text us to that same phone number. You can chat back and forth with us. You can email us. That's probably not the most effective way to deal with us, but you can if that's how you want to deal with us. So I'm going to let Beth talk in just a minute more about kind of what those user experiences look like in the portal and on the website or on the app. But we are really trying to make it easy to work with us. So no matter what you want to do, you can call us, text us, chat with us. We will also, and Beth will show you this in a minute, we can transfer you to in-house technicians that are also there 24/7, 365, who can try to assist you over the phone. And those guys have the ability to also video chat with you. So if you say, hey, I don't know what I'm looking at here, they can say, oh, well, let me just see your phone. Let me see your camera, and I'll link in with you, and then I can see what you see. So that's been fantastic. And then we have all kinds of materials available on our Crew Connect site, which you can also get to through all these places. So there's documentation and one-pagers on what you're supposed to do to maintain your equipment, daily, weekly, monthly. And it all looks really pretty. So you can download it if you want to. You can print it out. You can order it from My Coke in our small parts program, and we send it to you for free, and then you can hang it up in your outlet. You can add it to your own materials if you want to download it digitally. We do that a lot with our larger customers. We are part of their ops playbook. So you're not looking at, hey, here's my Wendy's restaurant playbook, and then, oh yeah, here's my Coke stuff over here. It's not like that. It's all embedded into their materials. Okay, so now I'll let Beth talk and show you some cool stuff.
Okay. We also have a dedicated team that I'm, honored to be a part of and help lead that focuses not only on, partnering with our product teams, partnering with Jess and her teams to understand what the needs are, but we really look at our customers and make sure that, as they're using and leveraging our digital platforms, that we understand what customer success looks like, that we're able to steward that back to Wendy's, McDonald's, Arby's, all of our customers of hey, this is what's happening in your outlets, this is the value we're delivering, and we're able to, really pull that data together and get in partnership with the operations team to tell a story about how their outlets are performing and how we're continuing to deliver value to them as a Coca-Cola company.
As a data person, I know most of the foundation thing for any artificial intelligence project is data, right? Data transformation is fundamental to any AI projects. So, we have gone through the typical AI ladder. Being a service company, being a 100-plus-year-old company, we have a lot of legacy data. And we have gone through descriptive, diagnostic, predictive phases of the data.
We've been really, right now we need to invest in our people and our workflow, right? And so we're completing, we've got to be pushing 8,000 hours of training in the current people who do the work for the company this year, really in the last 6 months. And we're investing in deep understanding of our workflow, right? Because all AI, there's so many different ways that we can add value, right? Through microgen AI, through end-to-end products, through some kind of manual processes, as well as AI that's embedded in things that we already own. So it's, I would say, investing in workflow, deep investment in our people. And then the other thing that we are investing in is making sure we're getting the most out of what we already own. It's easy to get distracted by shiny new tools. I love shiny tools, but sometimes we have capabilities in our existing tech stack that we haven't fully explored, and so that's
our investment at SafeLight's been pretty modest when it comes to AI. I think when I look into the future, we're looking in 3 areas. I think data collection and data management, as Haroon mentioned, having that data readily available is really important. We've done a lot of sandbox. If you've ever tried to build a predictive model, you grab external, a data dump from this system, a data dump from this system, and you put it in a sandbox, and it works, but then you have to actually plug it back into your business. And so we really need to make the effort to make sure whatever we build in that sandbox can be operationalized, because that's where all the value is. The other areas are AI talent. I think we need to invest in data scientists for sure, but I think also UX researchers and product managers. I think it's, half the battle is taking that shiny new tool and pointing it at the correct business problem, and you really need to make sure your customers are ready for that, so having that UX researcher is really important. And then, finally, I think technology. We've been having a lot of conversations of do we build or do we buy, and where do we need the expertise, and should we bring in a partner to help raise the expertise within our organization? And I think we'll continue to invest in technology and or partners in the spaces that we need to help.
Well, I'll start with, it's a true collaboration. I mean, I know within technology and digital services, I talk to my team all the time about, our core values need to be communication and collaboration with the business lines, whether it's on the automotive side or any of our other verticals, from travel, financial services to insurance. And so, stereotypically speaking, the technology folks that are typically sort of quiet and just want to solve problems and fix things, I'm like, we need to be sitting at the table, pens down, computers down. Let's have a conversation with the business line and talk about what's the problem we're trying to solve for. Let's not figure out the how yet. Let's figure out the what and the why, and then we can come back with the how.
Yeah.
And so
the business acknowledged and recognized that we needed to be speaking comparable language and vernacular. And so we embraced a strategy that we said, we want to be agile. We really want to lean in on safe, agile practices. We want to ensure that we are developing at an accelerated pace, new capabilities and new feature sets, and that we are going to be bringing in sprint releases every 2 to 3 weeks. And so starting first with bringing the team together through safe, agile training with the business leads and with our IT counterparts, that everyone understood common practices. And then leading from that perspective into a center of excellence, that everyone was engaged in understanding prioritization, how that plays into our PI planning process, how we're executing on what we are sizing in terms of scope, capabilities of those business requirements, I think all played really well.
Morning to everyone.
And then finally, I think...
I wish I actually, as a panelist, could say, man, I've got all these great examples of where this has worked. But quite frankly, I would say it's just the opposite in my industry and my experience. It's probably why we're here. It's a great topic to be discussing. I think, the second part of that, how I would answer that, and we can obviously dig into this a little bit more, is there's this whole notion around diversity being coalescing around gender and race. And I think it tends to make this much more of an emotional discussion versus, really the analytics behind it, right? And so how do we begin to unpack that and think about the true value of a diverse team, diverse individuals on your team, especially as you ascend throughout an organization? There tends to be more of this, it's easy to build kind of mini-me's on your team, right? People that all we're A-type personalities. And if you're not that personality, which by the way, I'm not, how are you seen, right? So I think we've got to unpack that and get the emotion out.
So I think sometimes to really understand, it's important how we're being experienced. You know, I'm a people first person, right? I always focus on the whole person. And so sometimes people may experience me as being the soft person, or because collaboration is a core value, that sometimes I have a hard time, even though I am a type A personality, of ensuring that my voice is heard. You know what I mean? Of being labeled as the people person.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I have great data to present, it doesn't come across as strong as if someone else, Matt Tice, presents it. Do you know what I mean? So I find that interesting.
I think diversity for all of us is just recognizing how those differences create the band, which Alan talked about last year. Finding those pieces, putting them together, that's where we need to start talking, right? So if you get applications and you're not seeing somebody who has a different background, or if you say, hey, I want somebody with 20 years in elevators, well, who's that going to bring? Somebody who has 20 years in elevators, right? Is think across your industries, think differently, think about those transformational skills that we can bring from place to place. And that's going to help us bring in new people. And quite frankly, when we talked about the silver tsunami yesterday in the board meeting, we don't have the option to not look at 50% of our workforce that is women, 20% of our workforce that is neurodiverse, 25% of our workforce that is minority based, right? We do not have that option coming. We're going to run out of people, and AI is not coming fast enough to make that replacement. So it's not necessarily that we want to promote someone who necessarily looks different. We just want diversity of thought, and we want to, like you talked about, people who really bring a different way of looking at the world.
So when you think about hiring leaders or growing leaders, what attributes come to mind that are important? And particularly as we're thinking about the future, we've had a lot of conversations today and earlier this week about where technology is going to take us, and then where that leaves kind of our people, and how important leaders are going to be in order to lead us through that. So what do you think about when you're thinking about leaders?
You know, it's interesting because I actually do recruiting at Tulane every year, and I recruit undergrads and grad students, and I can usually tell within 15 minutes of an interview whether they're going to be a fit for us in the long term or not. And I've been fortunate enough where many of the folks we've brought in as interns have ended up staying in the company and having successful careers and getting promoted through the organization. And what I look for is, first of all, does this person have strong ethical code, and do they treat people right? And because that's the business that we're in, and you've got to have that. And we're proud to be consistently named one of the most ethical companies in the world. And so I really look for that. I look for, okay, can this person, are they going to be able to handle an environment that's always changing? And I've been at Dell for 25 years. The company has completely changed in 25 years. Even in the last year, it's completely changed. And it's on this path to look very different in the next 3 to 5 years than it is today. And so they need to be able to adjust with change. I look for some elements of leadership. You know, somebody coming out of undergrads, not going to have a lot of leadership experience, but you can tell things. You can tell if they were on a team sport. From our grad students, if they were in the military, you know that they know how to work in teams and how to be part of that organization and what that requires. And then I look for curiosity, because we're in a business that's constantly changing and evolving, and we literally touch every customer segment in the globe, every business. Somebody needs technology to run their business today. We do everything from consumer to the most secure data centers in the world. We're in every country, as I said. So that provides a lot of opportunity. And so I'm always looking for, okay, can folks really understand that and be able to adjust along that path?
But we're also seeing that service parts revenue starts to emerge, that pricing optimization is something that's starting to become more important from an analytical perspective. And as we start to see this shift and acknowledging the differences that we have in each of the supply chains, James, can you elaborate on how do you measure performance and success in the experiences that you're driving in your organization?
Yeah, having the opportunity for service supply chain to be directly in the service business. So we manage everything from planning, procurement, distribution, logistics. We just don't do the manufacturing aspect of it. Really, we're focusing on a lot of different aspects, and being upon that leadership team, have the opportunity to think about service revenue, service margin across, and then that customer experience, that CSAT and NPS score across the space. So we look at that from a leadership team perspective. But when you go a layer deeper and just think about service supply chain, our main focus, we've done this transition over the past really few years here, is going from line item fill rate or a service level into what we call OTIF, or on time in full. And we really believe that measuring that provides the true impact to the customer and or the engineer, no matter where they are around the world.
And Kate, I want to get your perspective as well, because we do see that bigger ownership on the service revenue profitability part of it. What does success look like to you and your customers, given as you pointed out, that they might have different expectations? Some of them have Otis elevators, some of them are your competitors. So how does that look like?
Yeah. So I think you've got to look at who the customer is first, right? So my team in supply chain, we're measured on productivity savings, right? So if I don't have a lot of spend under management, there's a lot of leakage. If the branches are going direct to a supplier to buy locally, rather than using our e-procurement tools, our catalogs, our leveraged rates, that's a failure in my mind. But at the end of the day, it's those people, those men and those women who are servicing our portfolio, facing to the end customer, making sure that they've got the parts that they need for the first time, on time, when they need them to fix our equipment. One of the big macro measures that Otis looks at is number of units on the service portfolio. And while that's great, there's such a mix in terms of just the heritage of the equipment, whether it's an Otis brand, whether it's a competitor brand. So it almost makes it much more difficult to make sure that I'm getting the right part at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
Excess and obsolescence is a huge headache for me. So, replacement parts, chaining, looking for solutions in the market that can help facilitate that.
Our distribution model is somewhat unique because we've got a lot of nodes basically within the supply chain, and a lot of handoffs where things could potentially go wrong and cause some additional delays on getting the part to where it needs to be on time. What we also saw is historically we've had a single source supplier model where basically we were dependent on one supplier to provide that widget. And over the past few years, we ended up moving towards more of a dual source supplier model. And we didn't just stop there. We really started to look at across channels, how are we positioning the demand signals to where they need to be based on the escalation level of our consumer. So for example, when we have a no-cool refrigerator out there and the soccer mom needs to feed her kids within a 24-hour period or less, we've got certain processes within the supply chain set up to ensure that those orders are coming through our distribution centers with the highest priority, and ultimately getting those parts out the door to the right technician to get positioned to get the repair done properly on the refrigerator. So we've learned a lot.
How do I change people and process for automation? How do I change the things? We know that technology works. How do we do it differently for those type sites? So that's what part of our secret is as we work through how we change technology, is how we actually change people and process. I always talk about 3 Ps. You need a good product, you need to have the people in place, the right training and the right culture change, because it's all about change management, and the right process change to get outcomes. Because it's all about outcomes. It's not around selling a piece of technology.
The other thing I want to say is there is an aspect where I feel, since we've moved more to online tools, where we're interacting with the customers in that fashion, there are some aspects where we're not getting enough data in the field for us. And I feel like we're just kind of on the cusp of AI, where maybe some AI tools can solve some of these problems for us. But for example, if a customer is calling in with a problem with their equipment, Sometimes the only messages we'll get back is there's a problem with this piece of equipment, you need to investigate further. And for us in the field, that triggers back to a phone call, the old traditional model, right, of interrogating the customer to find out what's going on with their equipment. What is it specifically that they need so that I can arrive to their job site prepared to deal with the issue at hand. So in that regards, the older traditional calling in phone model, I've found still kind of applies until some of these newer tools are able to sort of pick up and figure out how to do that interrogation and somehow get that data back to us.
First thing to start off with at Daktronics, we have our president, our CEO, and then we have probably 7 VPs. And of that population, 70 of them have been in the field doing field work. So there is a deep understanding for the activity as well as the effort it takes to do work in the field and the complexity of our products, which really helps us considering the VP of engineering has been in the field and grew up doing some of that work early on in his career, so helping to identify with what we need. So we do design and manufacture our own products, so we have a direct line into engineering where our field service organization can submit contract feedback that goes right into engineering, and they make changes and adjustments to our products.
There's a 4-step process. I noticed just today and yesterday, everybody's talking about going left, right? Moving left, shifting left. For us, it's a 4-step process, just like everybody has, right? It's contact, which the customer contacts us, or the truck makes its own call to us. You have dispatch, you have service technician doing the work, and you have the closing of the business, right? Number 2 is super important. And you have to feed your dispatchers all the right information, SLAs for the customer, not to exceed amounts for that serial number. Just driving all that, we have a lot of it. We're just digitizing now for all of our biggest customers. I know you mentioned Service Channel. Coca-Cola talked to them. We're integrated with Service Channel already, and it will take longer than 6 months, wherever Coke's at. But what's fascinating about that is getting that data to the right people. Take that away from your service engineer. Don't let he or she worry about that. Hand them, here you go, do what you love to do, which is be Superman or Superwoman. You fix it and you get out, right? That's what they like to do. When they walk in, they're the most trusted person in our organization is the service technician engineer. They walk into Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, they're like, oh, I'm just here to fix it. I'm not here to do anything else but solve your problem. So just set them up for success.
Love it.
If you can also talk about maybe sources of friction that you had in the past and that are no longer there, or not to the extent that they used to be. So how has the work become better? How are you spending more time on the things that you can and want to do?
I think training is a big factor in that. If I can have more information at my hands as far as knowledge base when it comes to our equipment, like I said earlier, there's a lot of equipment for Crown Equipment Corporation. So having more knowledge in my hands that I could maybe go back to, so maybe like videos, product introductions, stuff like that would be really helpful, I think, as far as if I felt underutilized, it's maybe because I don't know how to work on that equipment. And you know, if I had something that I could access to where I could just look at a video and understand it better and know what I'm working with, I think it would be really
I want to ask the question because in my opening statements, I asked, are we losing progress? And I want to do the flip of that. Are we making progress? How does everybody feel? Round of applause. Are we making progress? I think we are. I think we're making tremendous progress. We held a Women in Service breakfast that we talked about and flashed some of the images from that setting. What a wonderful event. We're hearing all sorts of buzz and energy. And we announced the formation of a podcast series called WINS, W-I-N-S, like our in-service podcast. And that will feature leading executives, women executives that will take the podium on a cadence and will more prominently feature that in our discussion points. So really excited about that. We recognized the lovely Linda Tucci. I think she had to leave, but she went home with hardware, and rightfully so. For those that aren't aware, Linda is responsible for our most popular in-service podcast event that we've ever held. Several thousand, close to 10,000 listens and playbacks and shares, and an amalgamation of her discussion around her health battle with cancer that she has beaten. So Linda is very worthy of that. And she's not the only recipient of this award. We have a second recipient, and his name is Rob Orager. Is he in the room? He's a humble leader. His humility is amazing. But one of the things that's common about Rob is every organization he works for is a happy, service-led culture. The people are happy. He's part of that. He is a big part of that. He has hosted 2 service journey workshops. 2. One in Minneapolis at Sleep Number, and one most recently at Denver. So please join me in a round of applause for Rob for his humility and this year's recipient. Congratulations.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. It's been a great 3 days. I've got to meet most of you. I'm up here for our technology showcase. Thank you first to all the judges. I know we ask you to attend a lot of sessions. It cuts into your breaks, it cuts into your lunches. But we really, really, really appreciate the work and the partnership. It wouldn't work without you all. So we thank you. I hope this year the changes that we made to how we did the scoring and the flexibility made it easier. It certainly increased the amount of commentary that we got. So thank you again for that. This year we have our awards. We have our most viable, our most innovative, and our best overall. So standard awards that we've given out year over year. We'll start with the most viable.
No, most innovative.
Oh, sorry.
Excuse me.
Wrong one. We'll start with the most innovative. And for the first time, we actually have a tie. Thank God for math. That came out to like the 4th decimal point in the scoring, and then I gave up because that's more math than I can do. So the first recipient this year is a new sponsor, a new participant in the Tech Showcase, and that'll be Skillful.
Justin
and his team. Thank you. Congratulations. That's yours. All right.
Congratulations, Justin.
We'll ship this one up. And then right up there this year with Skillful was the team from Lexmark. So Demetrius, Alex. Thank you.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Lexmark. You'll have to share that hardware. We have ordered another one. It will be on its way. We'll need a mailing address.
We'll chop it in half later, send it off. But both Lexmark and Skillful received high marks, but they also had a lot of really strong comments from the judges and the attendees on their approach that they're taking to market, and a lot of excitement around what they showed. So congratulations again. Our next is our most viable. So a lot of the commentary that we received back from the judges on this was, very much moving to the next level, expressing how they think that this is a solution that could help really power them forward, and they've already had success with, and they look forward to continuing the evolution alongside of it. So this year, the most viable goes to Neuron 7. So Ken, his team. They have abandoned you in your time of need.
More hardware for the shelf.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Nick. Congratulations. Outstanding.
And last but not least, we have our best overall. So this recipient, their marks and their scores were consistently highest across all 3 categories, but then also their commentary touched on all of the areas. People found it to be an innovative solution, and they're excited about what's coming next. They've already found success with it, and they are looking forward to exploring more and learning about how that this solution might be able to help power their business. So this year, the best overall winner goes to the team from Aquant.
Congratulations, Tim and team. No worries.
Tim sat farthest away as possible. Exactly. Grant's right there.
So, thank Thank you very much for a wonderful week. The energy this week was outstanding. You guys are amazing. We love you all. Thank you.